Bridget Weiss. I'm the superintendent in Juneau. I'm really excited to talk today a little bit about implementing restorative practices. You know, as we approach any school year, we are recognizing more and more as school districts what those social and emotional needs are in our communities, in our homes. And as we approach the harder topics of achievement gaps and raising the bar for our early youngest learners and you know in the areas of reading and math and sciences and really trying to create an equitable access to education, we simply got to a point as school districts where we couldn't ignore the fact that it wasn't all about academics and that instructional strategies were critically important, but alongside that was really the need to address the social and emotional needs of our kids in order to position them best to learn. Our primary mission is for kids to learn. And and it just simply has become an essential tool. No different than any curriculum we use, any formative assessment we use, any instructional practices. We have to pay attention to that whole child, be creative about practices, instructional practices, but also support them. And restorative practices is one tool to do that. But we also have some policy around discipline. So when we do our discipline policies, we don't want a discipline policy to be out of line, which it could easily be, with restorative practices. So that's another example where you would want not only your policy, but your admin regs, which live and breathe, of course, right under your policy, which really, I call those like the instruction manual to a policy. So your policy and your admin regs, discipline is another one that lives in our policy book that we want to make sure that we did and make sure that we didn't have expectations written there that collided with this different approach to discipline, restorative practice. Because restorative practice isn't about punishment. And sometimes discipline policies or ARs can be solely about consequence, punishment. And what we always hope, and I've said this for years, as I've been an educator for 37 years, I was a building level administrator for a long time, that we always want our discipline to change behavior. The purpose of consequences is to change behavior. The challenge that we have in our system is that often the consequence doesn't change behavior. There's nothing built into the consequence. It's sort of an artificial attempt at a consequence to change behavior. We don't have many options as an institution for punishment or consequences. And for years, traditionally, we tied that to discipline. Like the only response to a misbehavior could be some sort of punishment. So the transformation with restorative practice is that you're looking for that, you're seeing that as an opportunity instead to build relationship, to change behavior, to add value back to the community where that misbehavior existed. It is really, truly transformational when we think about breaking it all the way down to a classroom. If we break it all the way down to a classroom experience where a child has done something wrong and harmed some way a classmate. Well, what does that mean? Okay, you now have to go out into the hall for a timeout. You have to go down to the principal's office. Instead, the process becomes a conversation with specific questions from a student about how their behavior, why they did what they did. Sometimes we learn a lot by understanding why a student did what they did, how they think it might have impacted another student or their teacher or their counselor or their principal, and what they could maybe do differently in that same situation next time. That's a very powerful upbuilding versus down-putting experience. And so the practical nature of restorative justice is truly value added and is is designed to build kids up, not tear them down, to give them confidence in resolution of conflict, to help them understand more the need for community. So the next time they build some empathy before they take action of, and maybe keep teasing out that forward thinking of, ooh, if I make this decision again the way I did last time, how is it going to impact somebody else? So I think the pragmatic nature of restorative practice is super powerful. As a superintendent, I've used it when I have students come even to my office. And of course, when I see a student around discipline, it's because they've done something that what warranted a visit to the superintendent. So that's fairly significant. It isn't, I don't see students unless it's a fairly significant breach of our expected behaviors. And I will, with the parent, and when I visit with the student, of course, the parent is always here. So I have, when in very many situations, been able to have this conversation with students with their parent present, hearing me discuss this with their child and ask these questions and modeling that for the parent and giving again the child or the student, if it's a high school kid, really an experience to be reflective versus what'd you do, why'd you do it, and I'm either going to hold your suspension or I'm going to reduce it. That's what they really want to know when they first walk in is, am I going to be suspended for as long as they said, or is she going to shorten that suspension? But the experience in processing that by using restorative practices becomes another learning opportunity for that student.